I almost missed the flight that changed everything. And the man in seat 22A? He didn't just sit beside me. He sat beside a chapter one never knew I was ready to write. My name is Lena. And the day this story began, I was late. Late for a flight. Late for a life I was trying to run from. Late to say goodbye to a love that had already ended months before the breakup. I remember racing through Terminal 3, my scarf tangled around my bag, a coffee stain on my sleeve, and that announcement echoing over the speakers like a final warning. Final call for Flight 174 to Portland. I made it. Barely. Breathless, heart pounding, hair a mess, and as the flight attendant closed the cabin door behind me, I realized I didn't even look at my seat number properly. 22A. By the window. When I reached the row, someone was already there. A man, probably early 30s, reading a paperback with one hand, his other resting on a journal. There was something about him, not just how he looked, but how still he was, like he belonged everywhere and nowhere at once. I hesitated. "Sorry, I think you're in my seat," I whispered. He looked up and smiled. "I might be, but I won't fight you for it." Turns out, I was wrong. I was in the wrong seat. Mine was across the aisle. But by then, he had already stood up and said, "Why don't we both sit here? It's a short flight. If they complain, I'll move." They didn't complain. No one did. And so, I sat next to a stranger, who felt like someone I should have met a long time ago. We didn't talk at first. He went back to his book. I stared out the window, at clouds that looked like dreams I used to have. Then, somewhere over Colorado, he closed his journal and asked, "What are you running from?" I turned, surprised. "How do you know I'm running?" He shrugged. "Same way I know I am too. You just have that kind of suitcase energy." I laughed for the first time in weeks. He told me his name was Theo, that he wrote letters to strangers and left them in library books, that he once lived in Paris but never saw the Eiffel Tower, that he was on this flight for no particular reason, just to leave. I told him about my ex, about how love sometimes ends before it ends, how silence can grow louder than arguments, and how I didn't cry when it ended, which scared me more than if I had. For the rest of the flight, we swapped pieces of ourselves like postcards. Not the whole story, but just enough to feel understood. When the plane landed, there was that moment, the one right before people stand, where the seatbelt signs go off, and reality slowly returns. He looked at me and said, "This was the best wrong seat I've ever taken." I smiled. Seat 22A might not be mine, but I'm glad you were in it. He hesitated. Then, softly, "Can I write to you? Not text, not DM, just letters, real ones." I nodded. We exchanged addresses, not numbers, not promises, just something better. Possibility. Weeks passed. Then one day, an envelope arrived. Cream paper. Familiar handwriting. Inside, "Dear Lena, this is what it feels like when strangers aren't strangers anymore. I'm flying back through Portland next month. Same flight. Same seat. In case you feel like getting it wrong again." And so I did. Now, every year on the anniversary of that flight, we book seat 22A together. We still write each other letters, even though we share a home now. Because sometimes love doesn't begin with sparks. Sometimes it begins with being late, with a borrowed seat, and a stranger who saw you. before you remembered how to see yourself.